have a whole bunch of slides this week, and it looks. I want to make sure that this thing is recording, since people may be, under the weather and watch the recording later. And looking at this, we've got a bunch of things that we can take a look at and try and understand, but we're going to try and talk this week all about a handful of things. Item one, we have delightful Ruby, who's with us for the very first time, and I want to make sure that we get a chance to do a Ruby introduction, and then we've got a whole lot of slides, so we're going to try and move through some things quickly. But first and foremost,
we can quickly just make an intro. Hi, everybody. My name is Ruby. I am an artist, an Indigenous artist. I am a longtime MakeHaven member here. I am also on the board, and I want MakeHaven to thrive. So I'm really excited to be able to participate. I've seen the progress, and I've seen how Foundations has kept growing over the years. And I'm here to help. And I want to say thank you for being able to be a part of your community. This was such a saving grace during the earlier part of the pandemic for me. So I want to hear from you, and I'm sure we'll have more conversations to come, but that's about it.
All right. I am ecstatic that you're here, Ruby. You're a delight every single time. And I think that it'll be wonderful to hear all of your expertise in these many topics. So with that, you feel like we're ready to get going?
Let's get going, yeah.
All right, let's do it. So I'm going to share the screen here. We have our microphone. Julia, I can still see you, so thumbs up if the sound is still good. Yeah, okay, great. Then let's get after it. So this is, and just for the sake of saying it out loud, Ruby, at any point, and for everybody, it's great for us to share our expertise, but you all have expertise and experience with this stuff as well. So feel free to chime in, say what you want, try and get us to be fully engaged in a conversation around these things. And especially because we're doing sort of a vector-based thing that's a spin-off from the laser. So if you have thoughts post-laser that fit in with the vinyl plotter, it's good to have those discussions too. So Ruby and I work together, and we're going to do some review on vector graphics and vector toolpaths. It's mostly just clicking through slides, and if anything pops up and you have a question, because it was a relevant thing from last time, 2 weeks ago, I guess, then we can take a look at those things and try and see how they fit together. So, vector graphics review, which was that video that we started with. But this is really just drawing the distinction between vectors are describing shapes, and raster is information from pixels. Inkscape is our favorite, and Ruby, I remember when in the first round of Foundations, you had this line that you just love.
What was it?
That you love Inkscape. That Inkscape's your girl.
Inkscape is my girl. Oh my god. It's true, y'all.
Yeah, it's totally fine. And so Inkscape is, how long have you been using Inkscape? What do you think?
I became a member, no, it was what, 2018?
We did our first round of Foundations in 2020. It was like deep pandemic.
Okay, so I'd say, how many years has it been since 2018?
Since 2018, 5.
So maybe 5 years.
Yeah. Okay, all right, that's fair. And it's on-ramp. I feel like it took me a whole year to really feel like I understood Inkscape.
But she's quirky, yeah. She's a little weird. It's different from Illustrator in a lot of ways, but the fact that it's free makes it so much of a quirkier journey. Yeah.
I got to use Illustrator for the first time this year. Use it more than once for 10 minutes.
Really? I stay away from that.
And Illustrator is just I don't think my heart could ever be with Illustrator.
Yeah, I also just don't want to pay that Adobe money.
Yeah,
since I already have it,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Inkscape is thankfully free. So just sort of reviewing this, that they're not photos, and I think everybody has started to explore that with the laser. We looked at how Vectors describe the geometry of a thing, and that's something that's going to come up again and again. It's really useful on lots of machines, and it's something that we'll take a look at. The fill, the stroke, and the stroke width, those are the three properties that matter. And here's one that I didn't include the review sticker on the page because object to path is such an important concept. Did anybody on the laser bump into this where you did not hit object to path? It's a super common, relevant thing. And I tried to capture a GIF to show exactly what's going on over here. It probably is not, this may not be the moment to stare at that long enough for it to make sense. But when you have text in Inkscape, it stores it as a series of letters, like down here in the bottom right. And then when you finally hit object to path, it turns it from text into, it's going to do it right now, turns it into a group of different funny shapes. So like it actually changes the way it stores the information of that shape from being text and like the letter that it is to being a funny shape that we recognize as a letter, but the software is seeing it's just a path to cut. That's what object to path is, but like for all intents and purposes, so big button you have to hit. Right.
Can I ask something while we're reviewing this? Is there anything that you want to like come back to? Is there anything that you want us to like re-clarify? If not, that's totally fine. But I just want to make sure that like everyone has a moment to like say like I forgot what the rest of it is, you know. But cool.
That's great. No, that's an important one, and it's especially important for the vinyl plotter. So it's like for this black line here, it's literally the rating for how wide that line is. And so on the laser, if you want to cut, it has to be really, really small so the laser knows how to trace along it. And on our vinyl plotter, and I should confirm this, but I believe if you have a stroke with any kind of width on the vinyl plotter, it cuts on both sides of the stroke. So it gets kind of weird.
Yeah. Paying
attention to your stroke width is something that feels like a detail at first, but then as you get better at design, you definitely want to pay attention. Inside of Inkscape, so I just pull it up, which may be kind of slow. Inside of Inkscape, it has that hidden in a whole separate menu, like where you choose the color of the fill, the color of the stroke. There's a third menu for the stroke width. And let's, oh boy, I got this one. We'll slowly get that open. But it becomes an important part of how this all operates. Let's get this slowly opening.
And Michael has a question, of course.
Oh, yeah. Mike, what's up?
Oh, he wrote it here.
Oh yeah, it's written there.
Yeah, well, okay, let me pop over and see your thing.
Oh, is object to path the same as image trace or make and expand in Illustrator?
Oh, yeah. In Illustrator, the like window, the image trace thing is the same as our trace bitmap. So they're analogous processes. So trace bitmap is what we do if you want to start with an image from the internet and turn it into vectors. That will take you from a raster image to a vector image. And it's really great. In Illustrator, it's image trace, but it's the same exact feature. Does the same exact thing. So that's nice to see. In here, I don't have a stroke on this, but I can add one. So there's the stroke paint, and here's the stroke style. So I can choose how big this is. Like if I want it to be exactly 1 millimeter wide, you can make those sorts of choices. But in our case, we're going to see that this shape is probably best for us to play around with for the vinyl plotter and just the fill. Like you don't want a stroke on this. In the laser, you have to meticulously manage your stroke. And remember, this would be in pixels and 0.02. So 0.02, something like that. So it becomes almost invisible. In the vinyl plotter, we'll see that you basically don't want a stroke. So, these all share the properties that you can scale them is really fun. This becomes very useful. Like this is a big sticker, and then we made smaller versions of this sticker. But making stickers like this is nice because you can scale your vector as much as you want. This vectors, the text is all vectors. These are Booleans, and you can do all the Boolean stuff if you haven't gotten to explore those buttons yet. In Inkscape, they're fun. If you ever sat down next to me, I probably have clicked in on these buttons right here, union difference intersection. Those are really powerful once you start to learn what these buttons do. Really, really helpful.
Hey, Corey.
Yeah.
Sorry, but in the Slack foundation channel, I think Emma is asking to be at.
Oh. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. Let's see. Yep. Thank you. Wow. Okay. And so vectors as toolpath. We talked a little bit about how it's not WYSIWYG, and so you have to be careful. And that vectors all get described like this. And here, ultimately, the thing that I think this week is going to be useful to think about, and in your experience with the vinyl plotter, really starting to master fill and stroke together, and that dynamic is going to be useful in here in this week. So think about it carefully. This is actually a vector that I pulled up in a web browser. So this is inside of Chrome. I just opened the SVG file like you can. If you use the transfer bucket, it'll open your SVG in the browser. Then you download it from there. But if you have any web development background, it's directly CSS styles that are applied to like set the stroke width, to set the colors of the fill and the stroke. All of those are just regular CSS properties, and that's like the internals to the SVG file. It's why those are the three critical elements of making that happen. It's way down into the file structure. Luckily, you don't need to do any of that with Inkscape. You just choose your favorite color, and also, which is way better. And the things that you might remember from the laser is that you want to have everything on a single layer, or manage your layers very carefully. That you want to flip rather than overlap your shapes. And I'm thinking about the Russian atom bear. Using the RGB color space for making things. That's really important on the laser. The laser only has those colors that you can cut. Think about your colors ahead of time. Convert text to curves is really helpful also, because if text is stored as like HELLO, it won't know where and how to cut it on the machine. And and avoid double cuts. This is something that will be helpful for the laser. If you get this wrong, the knife will cut things twice, and we'll see if that's problematic. Yeah. No, that's exactly the same thing. Yep. That was probably when I was writing. I probably wrote that line when I was used to Corel, a different vector software. They all have different names, but literally the same thing. Yeah. So here's actually new stuff, and this is a fun one. This is a good week for things to play around with. We're gonna talk about the vinyl plotter. How long have you been playing with the vinyl plotter, Ruby?
Almost as long as the laser.
All right, cool. Yeah.
I'm sometimes a little. I used to be pretty nervous about this because it was just so. I don't know. I guess I've ran into more trouble in the past.
Yeah. And the machine I ran into when I came here, previous generation of vinyl plotter was the first one we had, and it was quirky. The new one I'm real excited about. I've used it in lots of different places, and it's so much better. Yeah.
Using this new vinyl cutter is like really refreshing.
Yeah. Brand new one, like last week new. So this is a good week for all of us to try and play with the new machine. But plotters like this have been around since, I'm going to go with the 50s, a long time, a very, very long time. Plotter machines like this have been around. At first, it was before people knew how to print on like an inkjet printer. So you literally stick a pen and it would draw out your blueprints for an architect, which is really crazy. For us, these plotters have little knives like these, and they actually make cuts in vinyl, like we've got up here, some examples. So we'll pass those around in a second. But what you're doing is basically you have a material like this, and let's pass around. Saw it already, but the material that you'll be cutting to make stickers, like this fun little MakeHaven sticker here, is it's a backing. So this is a white paper backing that's sort of glossy, so things don't stick to it. And if you peel up the edges, you'll be able to see it. But then there's the sticker that's on top. And what I've done is peeled away all the excess stuff. That's a process called weeding. And so this sticker on top the knife goes through and it makes a cut through the vinyl layer, but not into the backing layer, so that it separates all the things. So when you look really closely at that, what you're seeing are the cut lines on the vinyl where the backing is not yet exposed, but you could pull away all of the stuff you don't have. So, thank you. Those are past this one too. So basically, the vinyl plotter does this motion. It can move right and left, and then it moves the vinyl itself forward and back, and then the little up and down of the knife, which is a lot of fun. And just that alone gives you the ability to draw in 2 dimensions. The vinyl plotter that we have is 24 inches wide, and because it can work with a complete roll of material, it's 24 inches wide up to like infinity long. You can buy 50-yard rolls if you want of the stuff and really go to town. The little up and down motion of the knife or pen is also kind of mesmerizing right over here, and it works great. It's the knife, but it's also, we're going to see later, it's fun to stick a pen or a Sharpie in there because it works great. It's a lot of fun. As we do this, and this is worth saying up front, there is a small cost to making stickers. For the vinyl that we're going to use, it is a consumable, and it's 10 cents per linear inch or 15 cents per linear inch, which gets you a long way. So like here I use 6 linear inches and I'm out 60 cents. It's a spendy one. But it's a lot of fun. The stickers are worth it. It's a good time. MakeHaven uses this machine a lot actually to do infrastructure things. So like the robot that's on the door, the signs that are on the wall downstairs. There's tons and tons of places where if you're a teacher in a classroom, and that is a vibe I think about all the time, making signage for that is really helpful. Or if you want to put signs on laptops, and I got a whole bunch on my laptop, or if you want to do labels on the back of cars, this is the same kind of vinyl that those like family of 4 Klingons are. People put on the back of their cars, those sorts of stickers. It's all this stuff. These costs for this material, and there's variations you can buy, but the stuff that we have downstairs is great. There's tons of it. If you find this still too expensive, you can totally use scrap paper and a ballpoint pen to test out your designs before you commit to buying the vinyl, because that's essentially free. Just paper and pen, and as long as it fits, you can just take that. So, designing for the vinyl. The fill and stroke they become really, really essential pieces to think about. Did you have any good, maybe you have a good explanation for fill and stroke? You got something in the tank, Ruby?
No.
Okay, all right. That's completely fair.
I mean, the only thing the last thing that I could think of that I made on the vinyl cutter were just these paragraphs for this like art exhibition I was like helping organize. And the text that was given to me was a JPEG. It wasn't like something I can like highlight and like, so I basically had to like make my own vector using that file, and like I sort of went through this process, right?
Yeah.
And needed to turn it into a vector in order to be able to use these like things, but that's all I got.
No, but managing, yeah, and that sounds like kind of a nightmare to manage the fill. That's like taking those raster pixels, turning them into the vectors that you want to represent the letters, and then like managing how does it look in all those pieces. It's a lot.
That's usually where I'm coming from, actually, when I'm like working with vectors and like personally, like my own work too. My work starts out as photography, and then I like to turn them into vectors to be able to engrave them onto wood or silk screen them, or like I literally need them to become vectors. So that's sort of my angle and why I said no to your question. It's not my, normal.
Yeah.
To have everything like the correct way.
But it's very valid, and the art that you make is great. If you haven't gotten to see Ruby's stuff, you should totally take a look. But it's good to just see in the menu, like fill and stroke, that's where they are. Don't ever forget them. They're the 2 most important properties of a thing. So they live right there. And if you imagine them, they're sort of properties of this base shape that's going on here. I like this new part of Inkscape where it'll show you the vectors and their handles. It's kind of fun. So like if you're imagining the star that's here, this is the core of the shape. And then over here, I've set the fill to be purple. And over here, I've got the like a dark navy blue for the stroke. Really starting to think about that dynamic is an important part of how you can progress in what's going on. My high schoolers who are lovely and growing up to be great people, they often will just like only look at what's on screen and they don't think about the nuts and bolts of how it appears. And if you continue to think that way, it becomes harder and harder and more frustrating to work with these machines. So really starting to think about the dynamic of fill and stroke and how you construct shapes can become useful.
And always check in before you're actually sending out your file. Like initially, I find myself like folks will say, hey, can you help me for a second on a laser? And usually the issue is like, oh, I want to do a raster, but I'm not choosing I'm choosing both fill and stroke.
Yeah.
So
yeah. But the nice thing is that I like this machine because it's a simpler version. It's just ignore strokes completely. Just get rid of them, flush them out of your life, only use a fill, and this whole section of the vinyl plotter gets a lot better. Whether it's a complicated thing like this or simpler or the stars, if you only use a fill and don't have a stroke, it just is going to go. It's a piece of advice. It's not a hard rule, but it's good getting started advice for using the vinyl plotter. Stickers come in all sorts of versions and varieties. I've helped people and made stickers anywhere from over here on the left all the way to this complicated stuff on the right. All of those are stickers that you could make. And basically, if you go left to right, they're increasingly complicated. Like the butterfly in the bottom, that's where everybody should start. A simple silhouette of something nice and easy. Bulbasaur is another good one to start with. The bird is a little trickier because there's like detailed points and little delicate things going on. The baby carriage down here, you've got some interior space you're weeding. The hand you're weeding out. There's some weirdness to that. You get over here into the middle, and now you're looking a lot at little detail-y things, but it's mostly one continuous piece. And then as we go to the right, these get more complicated because there's detached parts, right? Like the eyes and the mouth are detached on a smiley face, or the paw print pads are separated from the base, or the skull and crossbones are separated, or the fire, the rocket, and the window, or these things become separated, and that adds a layer of complexity because we'll use masking to manage that. And then multicolor is like, this is actually made up by multiple stickers. Our machine downstairs is a one color machine. So if you want multiple colors, it's totally possible, but you have to start to think in layers and sections, which we'll talk about.
Can I add one thing? The large format printer also has a vinyl paper that you can print on. If you want to skip the color having multiple layers, you could simply just print on the large format printer and then I guess cut it afterwards. The issue I think now also is that there used to be some compatibility with edge to edge detection or something. I don't know if that's the case with this new vinyl plotter.
So with the last one, I did it precisely one time with Kate.
It was difficult.
And it was difficult.
I never got it right, to be honest.
It was really not easy. But I think that there's an example downstairs. I can point to where it is in the space. But I believe that's a part of the current vinyl plotter as well, but I have not done it and don't know for real.
Yeah.
So like I will fumble through it with anybody who wants to.
For sure.
But I want to be clear, I don't know how to do everything. But it could be fun. It's like that's a very pro move for sure, 100%. You just print your sticker and then cut it out. So let's say you have one of the like middle area stickers where it's still all one color, but they're not one continuous piece, like a smiley face, or like here's the school logo for where I teach, like this fun lady here where there's polka dots and stuff, or the continents and islands and all those things, or that stuff going on. The process you use for that is a masking process. And so it comes down to a series of layers where really you use a sticker to pick up a sticker and put down a sticker exactly where you want to stick the sticker, which is a lot. And like it sounds complicated until you see it happen once. and then it's relatively easy. There's actually a video a little later on where you can see it happening. And if anyone's ever used a Cricut, probably the Cricut software encouraged you to do this. What we're doing in this unit, if you've ever played with a Cricut, they don't get a slide in this slideshow because they don't deserve one. But this is the upgraded version of a Cricut. I will crap on Cricut all day long because
Really?
yeah,
Oh, I'll stay away from it. Okay.
it does. Yeah. And like you want to know the reason why I don't like Ruby?
Tell me.
It's because like you can do your own custom design, but it's only after you click through like 4 different things and pay $1 for this design and make it thicker.
Oh.
It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's they're trying to get those microtransactions out of you
Mhm.
so that you pay for a design.
No, sure.
We just don't like that.
Okay.
That's my why,
Yeah.
ultimately.
That's a valid why.
Yeah. So let's say you want to do multicolor. I love this Homer Simpson so much. This was a kid that I had he was a senior in the class of 2020. He made this sticker that fall, so before the whole world fell apart. And this is actually 5 separate layers. There's a black layer, a blue layer, a white, a yellow, and a brown. So this is a series of stickers that he put together. They're laid down in his Chromebook, and they're all just sort of laid in place together. It's more than 5 like actual separate stickers if you look at the borders of all the shapes, but you're able to pick up like all of the blue of the pants at once and put them down with a masking layer. And so if you get good at that masking process and splitting things up into different shapes, you can make some really interesting, complicated things. There's an example one downstairs in the space that's like a dragon, some sort of a Chinese style dragon that I think was made by an intern one year before I got here. And I think somebody said it's like 7 or 8 layers of color.
Oh yeah, I know what you're about. Yeah, it was.
Like nightmare fuel. So think about lining all that up. But if it looks good at the end, it's great. It's great. This is a little easier to do. This is a Green Lantern one done by a similar batch of kids, where the green is just layered on top of a black thing. So that's like the Green Lantern is a stacked set of layers, and Homer here, they're sort of coplanar. Turns out if they're like directly against each other, it's really hard to get them perfectly aligned, and they never look good. So the 2 of them next to each other, they sort of ride up on each other, and it just, because it's always shiny, it looks kind of bad.
I second that.
Yeah. So keeping them slightly separated, which is perfect, because cartoon characters usually have colors slightly separated, is a really good way to think about making color stickers. Here's sort of the logistics of how you would do that. There's Buttercup from Powerpuff Girls, been a long time, but that's her, and she has this pretty simple color palette where there's the black background, the green, and the white, and the skin tone. And so I broke her up into this background and the green and the skin tone and then the white. And so these all come together. The registration marks here you can see sort of show up. These can be helpful for alignment. In a perfect magical world where nothing stretches and everything works, you could line up those stickers on top and then sort of get everything to align below. So if those 2 rectangles at the top are perfectly aligned to each other, and you just sort of stick those down, and then you fold the rest down onto each layer, it could all come together really, really nicely. There is an art to actually doing it, and so that's hard to make happen. Some people will choose to just forego the registration marks and line them up by hand if you're really good at that like artsy business. Some people, I bet I'm full faith you are, Ruby.
A lot of practice.
Yeah.
A lot of practice. Sometimes they like again, like this tradition that I did a while ago. A lot of text, it's long. You use that sticker to lift it off, and then something happens and like something sticks to something else, and like you have to just like play God and put them apart. It's a lot of practice, but I promise, like you'll get comfortable with it.
Yeah, you know that moment when like the duct tape sticks to itself?
It's
And,
that.
Yeah, your heart
It's
skips a beat.
It's it, yeah. I've
Yeah.
been in some dicey situations.
Yeah. But when it works well, it works so well. But it's interesting to think about this. Like the simpler ones are a great place to get started. And then as you get more and more complicated, Like these ones over here, there's no masking. So you can pick them all up at one time and put them all down at one time. And because they're one continuous piece, it's not a big deal. As you move further to the right, that's not true. You need masking. And then like to make this, the haunted house honestly should be moved over to the left a little bit. Because it would be the black and then the red on top. And if it's a little out of alignment, whatever, it's not a big deal. Versus the sword is like not even close to realistic possible. The penguin here is tricky because it's got a face that makes it identifiable, and that makes it a little bit harder. So if it's out of whack because it's a face, it's easier to spot a problem versus the deliberately wonky house. So thinking about that and design choices for your sticker could be interesting and complicated. And everybody knows what their simple looks like, so it'll be identifiable if you get that one. But another thing that's really fun to do with the vinyl plotter is you can do not just vinyl stickers. There's also heat transfer vinyl that you can get. I don't know if we have any downstairs, but it's like $10 a roll, and it's great. If you have a little league team that you are connected to in some strange way, or a very normal way, you can use vinyl adhesive lettering to put names on the back of the shirts.
I think I still sell like a piece of vinyl downstairs.
Oh, cool.
I know that I've bought some and made some.
Yeah. And we have the heat press, right?
Yes.
Yep.
There is a size limitation. I think it's like 10 by 11 or something, but don't quote me on that.
That's like shirt size.
Yeah, it's only shirt size.
Yeah. What's up? Oh, yeah.
I
Go for it.
think it may not last as long. I have yet to test that theory in full. So don't quote me, but what I hear is that adhesive can like wash out or like lift off.
Yeah. That's what it is.
But like this method of making shirts is like more durable than I've seen. Like, because you can order stuff from online and then like iron it on, but it's not the same as using the piece of equipment that we have. Yeah.
The other thing for like, especially thinking about a little league team, like the screen print, the front, you can screen print the front because they're all identical. But when you want to put Sammy across the back or like Bridget, right, like different to each individual, then the plotter is great because you can just make one and it's not a big deal. Versus the screen print, like you definitely don't want to make a whole bunch of screen prints. And those, I bet those numbers on the back of their shirt are just the perfect size that it's not a stressful thing to put them on the heat press. We're probably, if the press is typically 10 by 11, they're probably like 8 by 9. So they fit easily, you got a little flap room, and it's the right size. One trick with this is you need to mirror it because the heat transfer stuff, you're cutting it upside down. So when you transfer it, it's flipped back over because the backing is sort of the iron guard. So when you iron it on, you're using the backing to protect the vinyl transfer in that process. So you do have to remember to mirror it. But it's a lot of fun. It's a great way to optimize things. So, how do you do this? And we're going to think about a specific example about how you actually design for these things, which can come out of any of our vector software options. They're all good. Inkscape is by far the favorite. And then you can cut from an SVG or PDF or anything that you want to do. The Illustrator SVG is great. Or the Inkscape SVG is great. Here's one that I actually made. So I like Bulbasaur. Is the first Pokemon I ever picked. And so with Bulbasaur, I went through and took him and simplified it down to a simpler set of colors that I could find on the shelf over in the MakeHaven store. And I got this blue and periwinkle and all these different colors that are going on here. And then he lives on the back of my monitor at home. So it's kind of a fun way to make a sticker. It's a bunch of colors. This is the example we'll take a look at. So it was 5 colors for me. And I used a black backer because I knew it was going onto a white monitor. So it was just helpful to keep it separated that way and to get sort of the cartoony, clear, thick lines that you want to have.
That's great.
Thanks. So here are the 6 stickers that it took to make Bulbasaur. And I used his name as a registration mark. down the side. So this, and if you look, I made one erroneous black Bulbasaur. It's on the don't tell New York, but it's on the door to go out to the garden downstairs, right above the beer tap. It's there. You can always find Bulbasaur, but these different stickers are what I cut out, and then I wanted to layer them so they would be there. This is a PDF. It's linked here. If you ever want to use this vector, you're more than welcome to. It's a lot of fun. It started off like this, and you can see there's a little bit of shadow on the character, but I took it all out so that it was just the simple flat colors. It's the sort of thing that a person may notice if you stare at it for a long time, but most people will just skip right past the fact that there should be a shadow underneath. The nice thing is that this used to be a complicated process with the previous generation of vinyl plotter that we have, but you can just press print. It's even easier than the laser. You just like have your design and literally press the print button, and it's really, really magical.
Ask you something.
Yeah, please.
For Bulbasaur, I saw that one of them was a outline.
Oh yeah.
That's your stroke, yeah.
Well, yeah, and this was just so you could see the white
Yeah.
in this like graphical depiction of what's going on.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's actually the white. Okay, never mind. It's a fill.
Yeah, and you know that brings up a good point. Like the color here is not set by you in the software; it's set by the physical vinyl. So like I could have cut out all of these colors completely wrong, and the software wouldn't have known it's there.
Yeah.
Right, like the physical material of the vinyl is what sets your color, and I designed it to be sort of accurate-ish, but
You could have accidentally made like a red bullet or
yeah, which have been fun, right? But it's all based on what you wanted. Yeah, so these just happen to be close. Like this is sort of a green, and he ended up periwinkle because I couldn't find a green that was right, and so it's just but you know, it looks fine. So choosing colors that are about accurate is what you want to do. Yeah, his like little bulb thing on the back is way different than this green, but you know, as long as it's good enough for you, that's what matters. We made a little video. This is and we don't need to play this. I think it's even me talking underneath. Ruby was the camera person. It worked out great. It's a 3-minute video. That's all it takes to print on the vinyl plotter. This is a very simple machine. There will be quirks. Someone will have an unfortunate time this week just by the numbers, which is very sad. It won't be here for support, but it should be quick and easy to make it happen. So if you have a design that you like, you sort of load your material in. But we're going to recommend you start with a little cut piece like this. It's way easier to do. You put it in under these little roller wheels, just like that.
Who drew it out for you?
Yeah, that part's really
Which is,
nice.
Like, I have never heard of such a great invention.
Yeah, it's pretty bougie actually.
It's super bougie. Yeah.
So you just want to get it on there. These rollers have to be underneath the white marks on the machine. They only have grippy parts on the roller underneath under the white parts. Tell it that you're putting in a piece, and now it's actually going through the process of measuring this thing, going side to side, and then measuring the length. I'm even doing the same movements I'm doing in the video.
You're doing great.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. And then there's the measurement. So yeah, it's really nice. From there, it's as easy as just dash the design and and then you go into here. It's just the same file I've had open here. You go into the printer, you click the properties button, and you can pull out the settings. And we can walk like immediately after this, go down and make a sticker just to show you all in person. But then that's the process of it cutting out a sticker just like the ones that are here in a slightly different shade of red. But it's so nice that it's just print. If you want to get more advanced, you totally can. And I suppose I can show reading.
Materials are good standardized to the point where it's like always the same depth of cut, or is it like
The vinyl for the large format printer is a bit thinner. I'd say it's supposed to be standard. It's not always. Some brands of vinyl are a bit thicker. Probably because of some reason that I personally don't know. I can think of like maybe weathering or maybe they just like being bougie, like and expensive.
Yeah.
But yeah.
There's adjustments you can make on the machine. But most of the time, a well-tuned machine, you don't need to adjust it. So that's a really nice part. On this particular model, There's like a digital adjust if you need to make a big change, and then there's a slider. So like if you're in the moment of cutting and you want to change, like, oh, I want to touch just a little harder, you slide the thing all the way to the right. Or if you're like, it's cutting through the back end, you can slide it to the left and you can adjust a little bit on the fly, which is
Let's like check that out before and do that tiny test cut.
Yep.
Is it literally just a button that says test?
It's a button that says test, and
Yeah.
you just do that.
Okay.
And it shows you if this is a good setting. It's really nice. So super simple to use. It's a really fun machine to pick up. If you find that that's not advanced enough, and I seriously hope to figure the software out with somebody who thinks that this is not advanced enough, Rolling Cut Studio is their first party like driver for the printer. If you watch Lior's video for this, he'll talk about this a lot. I would advise you to just like wait until you've made all the fun, simple stickers you want and then learn this. Because there's so much you can do with just getting the size of your piece right, pressing print, and that's it. I think it'll solve 80% of the sticker problems that people have in MakeHaven if you just learn that process. Rolling Cut Studios, if you want to go more advanced, if you want to design in their software, if you want to dial in things really in special ways. Well, honestly, like, I don't know why I would use this. To be very honest. It might have like special weeding things, like pulling out the unused material. It may have helpful features for that. I like to manually draw them in, like drawing lines because when you're pulling out the stuff you don't want, sometimes I'll add in lines just to chop that up so that I'm not pulling out huge pieces of scrap. I'm pulling out little sections of the scrap. But you can draw those in manually. So like it's possible to do by hand. But Rolling Cut Studio is great if you want to level up your game even further. Here's me actually building the Bulbasaur. And so you can see this is the masking here. I'm pulling the backing. The backing is the top. And so that's pulling that away. The masking is stickier to the vinyl than the vinyl is to the backing. So you can sort of pull it up like that. But it's close. Like it's right on the border. So you have to really play with it. There's a bit of an art to it. And then once that vinyl sticker touches the backing, that's where it lives forever. In the duct tape sticking to itself sort of way. So here I use that backing to try and line up the registration marks. And it sort of works. If the Bulbasaur is all lined up, you can see the L had already jumped ship, which is fine. This is how it goes. Then if those are perfectly lined up and the masking doesn't stretch or change at all, then the green should line up perfectly. But I think it doesn't with the way this drama unfolds. So like eventually I just started abandoning, oh yeah, this is me being frustrated. We're just gonna click away. It gets going. It's muted. It's muted for what? There's a I think was it your
Aaron's birthday.
oh yeah. It was
God.
we should get party hats for birthdays.
We should. Yeah. I'm gonna take those.
Separate material, the birds are like.
It's just like a giant roll of masking tape.
Got it.
There's like 3 downstairs.
Yeah. And it's really fun. If cutting is too much commitment, you can instead put a pen in it, and it's really fun. Like here's a ballpoint red pen, and you can draw the most intricate and ornate things that you could possibly imagine with the plotter. And what's really cool is it still looks like it's drawn with a ballpoint pen or like a Sharpie. It really retains that aesthetic because of the mechanism is still the same as a ballpoint pen. So it looks like it's drawn with a pen, but it's drawn in a digital fashion. And so you get all the detail that you would want if it was a cut, but it looks great. More modern crickets have actually found that this is such a useful feature of these high-end machines that they've stolen it and put in pens in the newer crickets. Again, I think there's one downstairs. I'm not going to help anyone find it. Sorry.
And I've never used it, so I'm sorry, y'all. I can't be super helpful with that. You have? Okay, I'm gonna come to you with my cricket plan.
Yeah. No, they're fine. I'm sorry, Cricket, if you're listening. But you can also get better. Just get better. They're probably not listening. That's fine. So in here, like as you start to think about this drawing with a pen or drawing with a Sharpie in this way, it's really fun because like this would be a really terrible sticker to make because it's like so many little details. stickers, it turns out like you can't get ultra detailed just because of like the nature of what you're doing and pulling things up. Big chunky shapes are generally better. But drawing with a pen, the detail kind of doesn't matter. What's up?
We might stick up papers at the board and maybe
I don't know.
on the last slide.
Yeah.
Always like that.
One, chipboard is like cereal box material. And then two, I would like literally tape a sheet of paper to that and then draw on the sheet of paper. Yep. Because the rollers on the bottom of the vinyl plotter, they have like little teeth, will sort of eat up your paper. So the chipboard will take the brunt of that beating and your paper will come out fine. So if you're doing high-end art, you won't get these like skid marks. Yeah. If you're starting to think about this, it can be really fun. There's other things that you can do. Like if you start playing more and more with intersections in Inkscape. Here I did a whole bunch of just straight line vectors. So those are just strokes actually. And then I use the shape of Connecticut as an overlapping vector and said only in the places where those diagonal lines overlap with Connecticut do I want to keep them. So then it becomes just a whole bunch of lines that the pen could draw, which is a fun way to think about it too. Like you can infill areas with a pen if you're creative with it. And so it depends on what you want your stuff to be, but this is a lot of fun to do as well. And so that is our vinyl plotter stuff. And we're at 7:51. We have some bonus. How this relates to the water jet. And if you haven't ever seen the water jet channel, which is what's going on in the bottom right here, it's a great channel on YouTube. They just water jet literally everything. This is a rock. They have a very high amount of views on a video about a rubber band ball that they put on the water jet. That was fun. There's a lot of different things that you can do, but the water jet is very much a spiritual cousin to the laser and the vinyl plotter. We won't have a water jet week. We just want to remind you it's really cool. So that's the Batman logo, and it came out great. So yeah, look at how thick that thing is. Isn't that bonkers? Yeah, this channel is worth watching just because it's fun. But it's the same sort of skill. As we're thinking about Inkscape and all of that sort of design and making, designing for the water jet has you in this crazy OMAC software. This software is complicated to get. It only works on Windows. That's a few barriers right there. And I want to say it's not the most user-friendly experience. But if you want to cut something into metal or you want to cut through a boulder, it's what you do. And there's a bunch of people around that are very, very good at it and can be very helpful. Chris would absolutely help you figure out what you're doing with this. And there's some really nice creature comforts to think about. I don't know how much we've talked about it conceptually, but really the water jet is very high pressure water with garnet going through it. And so this is just sand that comes down through this tube, and it's super high pressure water and sand, and essentially just sanding its way through whatever it's blasting through with 90,000 psi. This tip has to be ultra hard so that it doesn't break down over time, because it should be breaking down from the sand that everything else is breaking down from. But it's super hard, which means it's super brittle, and they have a chance to break. I hope you never break one. They are $200 to replace. Leor will tell you some sad story about a guy who was here on do you remember the story?
Yes.
Yeah.
Go on.
This person broke the water jet tip, and then they went up to their car to go off steam and go get some food. They realized they got a parking ticket. They came back down to try it again on the water jet, and they broke a second tip. It was a rough day for that person. So be careful. That's the only time that's ever happened. It was a very rough day for that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, very sad. But most of the time it doesn't happen. And there's new clips that Chris made and designed that make it way less likely for any of that to happen. The water jet is worth figuring it out, and you're not going to incur a $200 cost every time.
If anybody wants to get badged together, let me know. It's on my list to do.
Yeah, it's great. It really can, and some of you know because we've done some water jet things in here before, but it can cut anything. I love this like reversive subway tile person. I think that's great. All sorts of different things. The apple is good. All kinds of different stuff with the water jet. And we talked a little bit about islands and cursive font versus stencil fonts with the laser. the tabs are really the best way to do it, and the OMAC software is great at it. And these just connect the pieces so they don't fall into the gross folder. So, we talked about a lot, and we're like just about bang on for time. And so we really have just a few things to think about. Item one would be get badged, and for getting badged on the vinyl plotter, there's Bob McGonigal is here like right now, downstairs. If you want to go get badged, we can probably heckle him into giving badges.
Sundays too.
He's around on Sundays also. So Sunday would be a good day to come in this week. And then Steve Sevick is also a person who can badge on the vinyl plotter. And he's on Wednesdays, but I just messaged him before class and he said he's out of town. So I'm gonna see if I can get JR to let me badge on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems reasonable. I got a lot of experience with this machine. And so we'll see what happens. But if you want to play around with the vinyl plotter, you should come in at some of the times that we're here, or watch the video in advance, and it's not a terribly intimidating machine. It is not a table saw by a landslide. So it's good to play with. It's good to hop in and use. This model is much easier than even the last one, so it's a very approachable machine. And we just want you to come in and get badged, design something, and there's lots of ways to design cool things, and then cut something on the plotter. Do you have any other thoughts or advice for what would be good to do this week about it?
No.
All right, that's fair. I like it. I would say everybody should make find the simplest possible sticker that you would make and be happy with.
Yeah.
Make that one first.
Dip your toes in.
Yeah.
And then throw yourself in the water.
It's reasonable.
That works great.
To just for the tag.
Yep, just text bumper sticker, period, perfect. Do that. Really a good one. Just like meh or hello or goodbye or eat my dust or any of those.
If you can read this, you're too close.
Those are all good ones. Yeah,
Well, for the masking, for the survey, do we have masking sheets here?
we got it all. So it's easy to do. It's fun to do. It's also, I love this process for using for other things. I had a kid this term of school who used this as a mask, and then he would spray paint football cleats. So he put the stickers on things so he could spray paint through them and then pull the stickers off
I've done that.
and get the negative. So there's really cool ways to use this in other non-conventional ways that get into the weirdness of the sticker machine. He was making Star Wars football cleats.
Nice.
Which is delightful. And so there's all sorts of fun things that you can do. Or if you still want to play with the water jets, you feel jealous that other people did and you did not get to, that'd be another cool thing to try this week. There's linked in here are more Inkscape tutorials. If you wanted to do any of these things, these are all here. I really hope they don't all play. Okay, great. They won't. Good. And then there's been whispers for years about risograph printing. This is another vector process it's not any of the things that we talked about. We just want to put this on the burner so it gets moved up in the wish list.
Load on it.
Yeah. This is these is a real specific aesthetic, and it's a style of printing that's really cool.
Old school.
These were printers that were only made in Japan and only during the 80s, I want to say. I don't know if that's even accurate.
There's some knockoffs that came after, but the original risograph, yeah, you're correct.
Okay, all right, yeah. And so they're fun. There are, if you want to talk to somebody, Ileana knows tons about this. And I think where to print even maybe. I don't know.
There's some companies or artist collectives you can send your files to get prints. In New Haven, that's really hard to come by.
Yeah, there's definitely one in Brooklyn.
Yeah, for sure.
But for this week, reasonable things would be for us to all go walk downstairs as soon as we're done with show and tell and make a sticker. Because it's fun. And then you can put them on laptops or cars or whatever you want to. Or just keep on playing and design whatever you want to design.